Good morning, everyone, and I'm very grateful you're all here. I'm very grateful to the organizers of this fascinating conference, and I'm also delighted to see so many young people in the audience. You're all here because you know this is relevant to you. I'm going to stress the word relevance during this presentation. And if you're not particularly young, don't disconnect. This is also relevant to you. The changes we're going to see in the next 10 to 20 years are going to be much larger than the changes of the past 50 years. I'm going to show you what's going on. So first of all, we understand that the road is challenging. We are facing all sorts of complexities as a humankind, climate change and inequities and political partisanship and so on and so forth. But on top of all of this, we are seeing extremely rapid technological change, and that's becoming very disruptive. As we all know, technologies have enormous positive impact, but also can be very disruptive to the existing order. And so we are challenged in figuring out how to respond to these difficulties. So it poses the question, in an age of search and artificial intelligence, what should we be teaching? Not just how. Of course, it's important to teach better, different ways of teaching, more engaging, yes. But what should we be teaching if a lot of information is available through this? It's only going to get much more rapid. The progress of technology is such that within a decade, we will be able to purchase for $1,000 the processing capability of a single human brain. Not the cognitive capability, the processing power of a single human brain for $1,000 in 10 years. And in 50 or 70 years, all human brains for $1,000. So this has profound consequences. We're already seeing a lot of them very quickly. The first one, of course, is augmented reality and virtual reality. You're going to see this happen in the next year, hitting the consumer space, where we are walking together, for instance, in Lugano, in this picture, and we're selecting the best restaurant because we have a little display that we can all interface with simultaneously and check the ratings of the restaurant and the menu and so on. And we will be able to have someone help us remotely do plumbing in our homes because we will have someone guiding our hand by superimposing the image onto the object. And all sorts of possibilities like that. And we will also have the ability to go into completely virtual worlds, occluding both eyes and delving into either distant lands, so we can go visit friends and family around the world in their location, or we can go into completely artificial worlds that do not resemble reality. We will be able to create different realities, and some people will find these realities much more controllable and much more pleasant than the messiness of real life. Let's try a little bit of music here for a moment. Let's see if I can guide this to play. Can you tell me who is the composer? Bach. And now, next question. Who painted this? Jackson Pollock, yeah, you're right. But you're not. The music, the painting were generated by mathematical formulas, algorithms. They were not designed by humans. Here's an essential attribute, creativity, that we consider so human, so irreplaceable, that can actually be mimicked by machines already. Ask yourself how much of our innovation is not just incremental. So incrementally, machines can start challenging us. The very own creations we make can start challenging us. Ask yourself, In a world where we have this sort of capability, what should we be learning? Artificial intelligence is really what it's about. It's being applied everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Let's see if this quick demo will work. It's always tricky to do a demonstration without the net underneath, right?
Estoy muy feliz de estar aquí.
Je suis très content d'être ici.
Estoy muy feliz de estar aquí.
So, ask yourself, and I apologize for our friends, the translators, do you think they will have a job in 10 years? Sorry. Ask yourselves, before you laugh too much, ask yourself, what in your job can also be automated or offshored? Right, so perhaps translation jobs in this sort of setting are so hard that they may not be automatable quite yet. But when I have a visitor from China, I use this. He speaks Mandarin, he speaks from Afrikaans to Swahili. Anything, any permutation, and it's only the beginning. And look at all the other applications that are being developed. So, another feature is that these things, these intelligences, whether they are physical or virtual in the machine, learn from each other. Imagine for a second if I had access to all of your experiences and all of your wisdom, so I don't repeat the same mistakes you've made in your lives, that we all do not repeat all the mistakes we have all made in our lives. I have made a few. And so these intelligences will learn at a much faster rate than we will. And this is also going to pose the question, what's our role? Then there's all sorts of other technologies that we can go over very quickly. There's 3D printing, where you can print jet engine parts or print body parts. There's brain enhancers, where maybe we might be tempted to take something to push us cognitively to work with the smart machines we're creating. Why only caffeine? There's the Internet of Things, where everything is connected to everything else. There's the quantified self, so you're wearing a bracelet of some sort that's measuring your heart rate, your stress level, for the past presentation, and so on, and giving you feedback via, again, this incredible supercomputer connected to amazing amounts of processing power and storage in the cloud. And then there's biotech. You've started hearing in the press about artificial intelligence and robotics and so on. I don't think you're hearing enough yet about biotech and how profoundly changing this is going to be. We can sequence our genome now for only $1,000. It was $1.5 billion more than a decade ago. Add another decade, we'll sequence our genome for $1, perhaps even 10 cents. That means that all of us will be constantly sequencing our genomes, constantly checking for emergence of diseases, but also doing this for our children, our animals, our favorite bacteria, whatever we want. $1. And the consequence, of course, is when you mix that with gene editing, this is where the Pandora things open. Because now you can decide, I'd like a dog with blue eyes. I'd like a smarter, taller child. We will be tinkering with all of this. We have done so through slow evolution. Look at the dogs we have. They're not exactly looking like wolves many times. We have done this throughout our lives, throughout evolution as humans. We may be compelled to accelerate our own evolution. There are profound ethical consequences to this that we're only starting to pay attention to, and I'm sure we'll be discussing those consequences. And then there's stem cells, where you can grow small things in a lab, like cells of human brain, but you can also grow meat. And this way, the meat you have grown has not consumed water, has not produced methane, has not killed an animal, and it's meat. And then, for the first time last year, we were able to create a bacteria from piece parts. Create from piece parts. And all these things interface with all these other things. And the change is accelerating because we can use artificial intelligence to accelerate genomics. What we're seeing is a repeat of the Industrial Revolution on an even larger scale. During the Industrial Revolution, technology moved ahead of education really fast. And as a consequence, we suffered. These were hard times. And we created mass education that we all benefited from, and we caught up. And now we're seeing the challenge of the digital revolution, where we're all challenged to catch up with the technologies we're creating, because if we don't do that, we're going to experience a lot more social pain. This is what we saw back in the 1800s, and that's what we're seeing now emerging. And so, if I was to ask you, so how do you react to a world that's changing like this? A lot of you would say, you know what, we have to be able to do all sorts of things because the situation is fluid and changing. And in a fluid and changing world, you need to be versatile and adaptable. A bit like the Swiss Army knife analogy. One day you're a synthesizer, the next day you're an analyst, the following day you're a creator, and on and on. And we also all long for all the layers of the Maslows Pyramid. We want to go from everything from physical needs to self-transcendent needs, not just some of them. We all aspire to this. And part of this is also employability, being able to sustain jobs that are going to be under threat by a lot of those technologies. And so what education system can we redesign, can we think about to address all of this? All of us, and particularly the young, we've all asked this question, why do I need to know this? We've all been in a classroom, we're like, why? Young students are absolutely right to ask this question with even more intensity. They're asking, hey, if I can find it here, why do I need to know it? So it's not about knowing. It's about a lot more than just facts. It's about deep understanding. It's about the ability to do things. And so our goal is to make education relevant. Again, this word relevant. Leave this room with this word in your head. Relevance of education. Schools, higher education, job training, it has to be relevant to modern times. And that relevance means not just your knowledge, but how you use your knowledge, your skills. And not just that, but also how you behave and engage in the world, your character, your curiosity, your resilience, your leadership, your ethics, what makes us different from just machines. And critically, how we reflect and adapt. That is at a premium, and that's called meta-learning. Our ability to think about thinking, learn about our own learning, and have a growth mindset, a can-do attitude. Thanks to the Fundación Chile, this book is now available in Spanish, if you wish to look it up. There's a lot more detail we cannot go into, of course, but it describes how we go from the changes in the world all the way to what education systems should be about, the what of an education. And I'll let you ponder this quote. This is a challenge to all of us, young and old alike. We are all facing these changes in real time. There's no place to hide. We have to have the courage to address them. Thank you very much.